Welcome to Sit Down News. How's everybody doing? I hope you're enjoying your night. I want to start out with giving a shout out to Ratchet, the sponsor, Ratchet Clothing out of the UK. I'll put a link down below. If you like, go there and you can check out their website. All right, down to business. So, The Sopranos review, season 1, episode 3. So it opens up with Christopher and this kid, his friend Brendan, returning the Comley's truck back to Comley's, which I found a little bit over the top, because if they took the truck in the street, first of all, they probably wouldn't return it, but if they were told to return it, they probably would just leave it somewhere and let them find it. But they wind up returning it, and two of the Comley workers or owners or whatever they were, employees, they come out and they start questioning them. And Christopher pulls a pistol out and throws a couple of shots in the air, and he gives the guy a message and said it's a gift from Tony Soprano. Very Hollywood to me, that part. So I now talk about Junior is what his guy, I think his name is Mikey, and they're in a restaurant, and Mikey's telling Junior that the people from Comley's, meaning the owner, is sending a thank you to Tony Soprano. And Junior is upset that they're thanking Tony Soprano. And I wrote that there's a growing tension brewing, and it seems that Junior is jealous or resentful when it comes to his nephew. And next, I talk about Tony Soprano has a change of heart, because if you're following along, as I am, the episode before, he kind of told Dr. Melfi he don't want to see her no more. He don't want to, he's done. But he's back in her office, and he is refusing to admit to some kind of issues that he's going through. And one obviously being the diagnosis of Jackie Aprile with the cancer. And then the next scene, the whole crew is in Jackie's hospital room, and they're trying to cheer him up. And Silvio brings up a potential score. And this score has to do with Hasidic Jews, excuse me. And this one guy, Shlomo, who wants his son-in-law to grant his daughter a divorce, but the guy runs his motel and he wants 50% of the motel for him to go along with the divorce. So he's went to, I guess, Silvio, and Silvio is bringing it to Tony and the crew. So subsequent to that, Silvio and Paulie go and grab the son-in-law, Ariel, and they get him at the hotel. And I wrote what could be described as naivety. He's being naive. So, and that's pretty accurate, because to be honest with you, a civilian like the son-in-law is not supposed to know who these guys are, right? They don't know who they are. He don't know who he is. The regular civilians are not supposed to know who these guys are. So, but in a disrespectful manner, he kind of tells them, get lost, right? And Paulie slams his head and tells him the following: listen to me, you weirdo fuck. You give Shlomo whatever the fuck he wants, and you forget this 50% shit. You got nothing coming to you. Nothing. You understand me? Nothing. And that's probably accurate what somebody would do to him. I think that the wording's probably right. And so next scene is Tony Soprano is visiting this Artie Bucco, which is his friend, at Artie's new house. And Artie's explaining to him that the insurance company is requesting, excuse me, a second investigation into the arson. And naturally, this is making Tony Soprano feel guilty. And Artie tells him who would burn down a perfectly good restaurant. But Tony don't say anything, and he's just looking and staring at him and looking kind of guilty, because obviously he had something to do with it. He ordered the restaurant to get burned down. So on a second visit with Tony Soprano and Dr. Melfi. She gives her opinion as to the condition of Jackie with the cancer. And she kind of gave her professional opinion, although she said she wasn't that kind of a doctor. But after analyzing, Tony Soprano didn't like it. He got up, he tells her off and tells her to go fuck off. And he again stormed out of the doctor's office. I would have to say that in real life, I think a couple of these scenes, he's making a scene and running off. I think that they would probably end their patient client, whatever they got going on at that point. So, this was interesting. So Tony Soprano's daughter, Meadow, is seen going to Christopher, trying to get him to give her drugs and crystal meth, but he wisely refuses, and he basically tells her, look, your father put a bullet in my head. And I thought that would be the end of that, but obviously after some time, he decides that instead of her going down to this Jefferson Avenue, wherever that is, and according to them, it wasn't the nicest area, he gives her the drugs. So let me just say that anyone giving, and obviously he's a captain, Tony Soprano, as far as the story goes, giving somebody's daughter or anybody in the life's daughter drugs or son drugs, you're talking about the death penalty. So he was right. And when he said he'll put a bullet in his head. So now, after they threatened this Ariel, meaning Silvio and Paulie, obviously they didn't get nowhere with it. And they wind up kidnapping him and bringing him to the pork store. And I guess giving him another lumping or beating. And they wind up calling Tony Soprano and telling him what the problem is, that he's got to come down there. And Tony Soprano accordingly tells Paulie not to talk on the phone. And he arrives very upset, and he tells the guy, which was kind of funny, he says, what the fuck, are you kidding me? Most guys I know would be happy to get rid of their wives. I'm sure some of you men agree. You're a stupid motherfucker, you know that? Now the guy, surprisingly, or maybe not, because he is naive, comes back and says, for 200 years, 900 Jews held their own against 15,000 Roman soldiers. They chose death before enslavement. And the Romans, where are they now? I have to tell you, I cracked up laughing because it's the perfect answer he gave him. And he kind of looked down at him and told him, you're looking at him, asshole, because it was just the perfect answer. And I think that was a very well thought out and a very good scene. So, to no surprise, Silvio's suggesting that they kill this guy, but Tony Soprano explains that he gave his word that he wouldn't do that. So he calls up this guy Hesh. Obviously, he's an associate of Tony's, and he's explaining the trouble that he's having with this Ariel. This guy Hesh is telling him, I told you don't get involved. Obviously, Hesh is a Jew himself, and he's basically asking him for some kind of guidance. And this guy said, I know one thing that no man wants to go through life without. So they're suggesting that they threaten to cut off Ariel's private parts. It was kind of funny. I mean, possible. So what's surprising to me is that there's something up, and I don't know what it is with this Artie and his wife, Charmaine, or whatever her name is. And she obviously don't like this Tony Soprano. And I wind up finding something else that was a little surprising to me, and I'll talk about it in a minute. But there's something not right with their relationship with Tony Soprano. But I wrote that Carmela was hosting a fundraiser for a pediatric hospital at her house, and Artie and his wife were catering it. And I think that she was upset. She felt that Carmela was kind of treating her like a servant. She didn't like the way she was calling her over. And Tony Soprano walked over to him to say hello. The guy was Artie was preparing food in Tony's kitchen, and he started in again with this restaurant. And Tony told him, "I'm sick about hearing your restaurant. Shut up about it, you depressing jerk." And the guy turns around and says, "What the fuck do you know about it?" And throws a piece of prosciutto and hits him in the head with it. I I mean, look, that could have that could have went sideways in the street very quickly, but they wind up getting into excuse me, a friendly food fight. Excuse me. And as I said, this Charmaine, I think her name is very resentful. She doesn't like the way Carmela was calling her over. So, excuse me, she decides to get her own little revenge by admitting that years ago she had an affair with Tony Soprano. So I seen something coming with her. I knew something was up. She has this deep rooted hatred for him for some reason. Excuse me. So now they show this Shlomo must have got together with his son-in-law and they worked something out where now he was only going to give him 15%. And because he thinks that he worked it out with him himself, he's trying to pull a fast one on these guys, meaning Tony Soprano and his crew, and not pay them the agreed upon amount. And Tony grabs him and tells him, you listen to me, you want to give your son-in-law 15% of the motel, you go ahead, but it comes out of your end. You better get our 25%, which is pretty accurate. And as I wrote, a boss or anybody in that life can't let anybody renege or even think about that they're going to get away with a renege, and you just can't have that happen. And I wrote that he, meaning Tony Soprano, is obviously under a great deal of stress and aggravation, and he's back at Dr. Melfi's office. It's like the third time during the episode, and that's a weird relationship, as I mentioned. And now he seems to be rationalizing a little bit about his friend Jackie and his declining health. And basically, from what my take on it was that he's questioning his belief in God. But they show a scene where he walks into Meadow's recital and is singing this beautiful music. And I think that, to me, they were trying to make it like, watching her, listening to the music and seeing them up there kind of restored his belief in God. That just was my take on it. And lastly, I start talking about Junior's revenge. So another weird relationship is this Junior Soprano with Tony Soprano's mother. And I wrote, he's basically treating her like his consigliere, which obviously we know she's not. And he religiously seeks out her advice for some reason. And he brings up that Christopher and his friend Brendan are treating him with disrespect. And I wrote that obviously a captain shouldn't have to ask a woman for these kind of answers. He should know how to handle these things himself. But I didn't understand the part of exactly who kidnapped Christopher, but obviously he was kidnapped off the street by two guys. I think they cracked him around a little bit. He thought that they were going to put one in his head or a couple in his head. And he thought that this was a message or a hit from Tony Soprano for giving his daughter the drugs. It obviously wasn't. He's begging for his life. I don't know what that was about. I'm just thinking that was his warning, I guess, from Junior. But ultimately, Junior sends his guy, this guy Mike, and I'm pretty sure maybe this guy Mike's straightened out in his crew or he's an associate. I don't know yet. But he catches this Brendan in his apartment, taking a bath in the tub, and he lights him up and kills him. And in my final analysis, I just said I believe that Junior is making a power move within the family. So that was the review. I hope I did it a little justice. I know a lot of you have seen it. This is my first time watching it. And I'm enjoying it. I wasn't so crazy about this particular episode. It was okay. From what a lot of people who have made comments and messaged me, they're telling me that it gets better as it goes along. So I'm in it now. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so that was it. Again, I hope everybody's enjoying their night. I was pretty busy today. As you see, I was posting a bunch of things, and I hope you all enjoyed it. I was kidding around a little bit, and that's really about it. I'm going to wish everyone a nice night. Enjoy yourselves, enjoy your night. Until the next time, ciao for now.